So this is a video I kind of debated making for a while, and I feel like I am out of the situation enough now to talk about it. I don't like to ruffle feathers or like make a scene or anything. I'm not gonna name things in this just to keep it, those of you who know, but most of you won't know who I'm talking about anyway. I felt like if Catherine Morgan can make a whole video on her horrible experience with Miami City Ballet, then why can't I talk about mine with an adult ballet studio near me? Now, to be fair, as an adult, ballet has come a long way for adults in the last few years since I started again in like 2015, 2016, where there was like nothing available then. And now there's like adult ballet intensives and all these great things, which is amazing. There are still a lot of studios lacking adult classes and who don't necessarily think, oh, adults should get ballet classes like real ballet classes. So that still is a struggle. Like a lot of studios offer like adult ballet fitness. It's more like a bar class kind of thing, like pure bar kind of class. Not a full ballet class, not letting you go on point, not letting you learn variations, all these things, be involved in shows. That is still kind of a not so much something we have, at least not here in Cincinnati. I have had a few great experiences and I've had a really, really bad one. That it only took me till more recently to realize all of the things that were bad when people pointed them out to me, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess that one, okay. There was a great studio up when I lived in Mason and was working near Dayton. They had more adult programs, but I know the teacher who was the most wonderful adult ballet teacher ever, Miss Shelley, has since left there, so she's not there anymore. They did allow adults in their Nutcracker and actually dancing, so that was good. But I didn't do it because I didn't live close enough and I went home to my family on the weekends, so I never did that one. I actually never went to see that one either, but I know plenty of people who had great experiences there, and I loved the teacher so much. Like, she just made you feel like you were doing so good, but still gave great corrections. And then I went to a studio, another one kind of at the same time that was near where I was living. They let me be in their Nutcracker, and I don't think I had to pay to be in that one at least, but all I did was stand on stage as a parent. Like, that's the only thing they would let you do. They were very weird about adults being on point and things like that, even though I had done it before. It's not like I was new to it. I have been on point since I was 14. But anyway, so that was not a great one. I didn't stay there very long. And then in 2018 or so, found a studio near where I was living and went to a first class, liked it, but it was kind of your standard adult ballet class. Like, it was taught by an older person who kind of taught it as if you have no idea what ballet is, which was frustrating for someone like me who wasn't a beginner. And they would not let me on point. This is the one I'm gonna give my whole thing about, but this is just the beginning stuff. So I didn't go back, and they were kind of like, oh, well, we're sad to not see you again. I was like, well, I can't really afford it because it was expensive. So then they said, well, we can offer you a scholarship if you fill out this form. So I thought, wow, this is amazing. Like, they're gonna give me a scholarship and I'm not even like a teen or anything. So I thought this was great. And I think I let that ruin my whole view of everything because it made me feel like, oh, they're giving me this thing, so I can't complain about anything else. Like, and I'm not really a complainer, so I didn't ever. So then I went back to that class and I kept doing it, and I kept pushing for the next year, I think, or the next semester. I think I did like that class, and I did, or maybe I just did one. I didn't do the adult one, but I did like it was just like a ballet level class with like younger girls, which they did let me do, but still wouldn't, they were all on point, but I was not allowed to be on point. Finally, by the end of the year, they were like, okay. And I was like, it's not like I haven't been on point. Like, I know I don't have great feet, but I do have the strength for it. It's not an issue of that. Anyway, finally got on point. Okay. That year, I think, was the year I did Nutcracker with them, which, granted, I get that I was new to all that and everything. That was the first real ballet show I'd ever been in. So I was just ecstatic to be in it, paid to be in it, and got, like, I was parts. I was a party parent, I was a mouse, and I was a soldier. So that was all decent stuff. Like, it was all more the party parent one. They do dance, but my character's dance got pulled. They were like, well, you can just sit with grandpa the whole time. Like, and I kind of noticed this as I kept doing shows with them, that they would just slowly pull my parts out towards the shows. I know I'm not the best, but that is not a great impression to give people that you don't believe in other dancers. You are not New York City Ballet. I'm sorry, you're not. Like, that's how I got the feeling that they wanted to be, because they had a semi-professional company there. But like, And the dancers there are all super nice. Like, this is nothing against them. It's more how the company and studio was being run that was an issue. And, you know, so my parts were pulled and things, or the rat and soldier thing I was still in, but I was always constantly being yelled at, which granted, so were the other girls, but I was like, okay, this isn't fine, whatever. So I did all that. You know, at least I got to do, like, sit in the dressing room with the older girls, because it was weird for me to be with, like, the kids, even though rat and soldier were kid parts, but that's what I got. And I'm short enough that I was like, it's fine, it's fine. You know, at least I got to be in it. I was thankful for that. That was the year I started taking photos at their shows, which I can't even count how many. I probably did, like, that was the first year was Nutcracker. Then I did, like, their spring show, both spring shows. The following year's Nutcracker. Like, I think I probably did like 7 or 8 full runs of shows, photos for them. And I would give them thousands and thousands of photos after everyone. Granted, in the beginning, my photos weren't as good, but they were still really good for the beginning even too. And they got better and better as I went, and my gear got better. Never got paid. That was fine. And I'll get back to that in a little bit. So the following year, obviously COVID shut things down. They brought back like all the other classes, but not the adult ones until like fall, which was frustrating. But, you know, a lot of other studios did that too. Like, I noticed inside Ballet didn't bring the adult ones back right away either, which is frustrating, but it, you know, other places were doing it too. Finally was allowed back, finally was allowed to audition. Again, just got cast as a rat and a soldier again, even though, like, I know I'm not good enough for some of the other, but there were other parts that I even asked them about. Like, I sent them an email saying, I will work at this. I will, like, there are these small parts in Flower, or not Flowers, but at the beginning of Act 2, there's a small part. And then in the snow scene, there's a small part. And she's like, well, those are usually for younger girls, which I'm like, I'm already doing Rat and Soldier, which are even younger girls. There was a girl in college last year doing those parts, so why on earth am I not okay to do that? And it was like, well, we just don't know that you're strong enough, that you're good enough. And it was kind of just like excuses. And they were like, well, we can see, you can try. And I like got like an audition choreography from other girls in the studio. They sent me videos on it so I could practice ahead of time. And like, was my audition perfect or great? No, but it wasn't for the bigger parts. Like, I wasn't actually asking to be Snow or Flowers, because those were obviously too out of my like range. And I knew that. But there were these other parts that were still on point, that were easy parts, like almost like beginner point parts, that I'm like, I could do those, but I was not cast in them. And then that show ended up getting canceled. I took so many photos at our dress rehearsals, everything. That show ended up getting canceled because of COVID. Which it is what it is. So then spring came around. I photographed their early spring show. I think I was helping video that one. Like, they wanted me to step in and be like this, like, cause their guy was leaving who was doing all that stuff, cause his daughter was graduating. And they almost were like wanting me to step in and take over all of that, which I wouldn't get paid for or anything. And I'm like, that's not, and video is not my thing. I don't know video. I did what he told me to do, but that's all I do. I ended up taking a lot of photos at that show too, and gave them all of those too. Very professional from the front of the stage photos too, because there wasn't an audience there because of COVID. It was like a virtual thing. Again, gave all the photos. Then we did Gisselle. I auditioned. I got cast as a peasant, which is great because I thought that meant that I was going to be in the actual dances. And then they were like, no, you're not actually good enough to be in any of the dances. I still paid to be in that show, $100. I was allowed to come to the rehearsals for the peasant girls and learn the dances, but I basically had to stand off to the side and was just allowed to learn for fun, which I was like, well, at least that's something. But I thought I would still get to do even a little bit of a dance. And slowly, as we get to the shows, all of my parts were gone. I only had the part of moving a bench on stage. I paid to be in that show. I came to all the rehearsals. I danced my butt off, and all I got to do was move a bench on stage, because I don't match what they want for their company and everything, even though the 5-year-olds got a dance to do. You couldn't have thrown something in there for me, anything at all, but it was just like, nope, I was an afterthought. Again, took thousands and thousands of really good photos and some videos that I gave them, and granted, yes, they were mostly from the wings because that was where I was in those shows. I was in those, so I couldn't be out in the audience. So they were all like wing shots, but they were really good. Just gonna say, they were. So that was a whole mess, and it made me hate Gisselle. Like, I can't stand that ballet now because of that. And I just, like, I had a miserable time. That was when I started dating my fiance, and like, it was just awful. Like, he was like, you don't even seem like you want to go anymore, and you seem miserable. And part of it is I did move further away, so it was harder for me to get there too. But it it zapped me of my love for ballet, and I think that's a big part of the reason why it hasn't come back as much lately. Obviously, I'm trying. I took a class today from Catherine Morgan, and I think I've learned that there's a reason I'm not going back to the studios, and this studio is a big part of that reason. But so that was Gisselle. Then I did our recital, which that actually went really well. Now, all during this time, I had a teacher who, I've had multiple teachers throughout the years at that studio who were different like dancers in the company. This one in particular just was not good at teaching per se, because all she did was yell and scream at me and the other girls, but mostly me, to the point that I would leave ballet crying. And I was in class with like high school level girls, and even they, like a lot of them, dropped out over time. Now granted, I became a much stronger dancer faster because I was so determined not to get yelled at, that I was trying so hard to fix things. I have an ADD brain. I can't remember, and her combinations were hard, and I could not remember them. And like that just frustrated me. Like I would be trying to work on my épaulement, on my port de bras, on other things, and at the same time be going, Allie, your foot, Allie, why are you doing this? Allie, why can't you do this? Why? We talked about this like the whole time. And I'm like, how do you keep dancing during a combination with that going on? There's a scene in Dance Academy where Miss Rain's doing that to Abigail, and I'm like, that was 100% how I felt in that class most of the time. Now the recital came and went. It went okay. I did fine, you know, that was great. That was one of the few times I actually felt like I really got to dance. So I will say that was really nice. But I still felt like, I don't know, I just was losing my love for ballet. So summer, took time off. I gained a lot of weight in the summer, and I'm still working to get rid of some of that. But, you know, it is what it is. The fall, I was actually taking 2 adult classes, I think, and I don't know if that was the spring or that was fall, but somehow my classes kept getting canceled because people weren't signing up for things. And then I ended up in the adult class, which again was still being taught as if like I was allowed to do point in that class and things, but I ended up kind of just making up my own combinations, because that class was like, every class was re-explaining how to do a plie, how to do a tendu. That made me not want to be there. And it was kind of like, my money was kind of like going to, your classes are getting canceled, like you're thrown into this class that's not really your level anymore. And like, but at the same time, I think they thought that was my level. So frustrating being yelled at like I was in class as an adult, because I don't think that's the way to let people learn ballet and like to like, you know, treat people. I really don't. You can get your point across without yelling at me. I had plenty of teachers who can. So then that fall, I didn't do Nutcracker, but I did go take photos for them. Again, gave them all these photos. This is also at the same time as I have been the past year ramping up my photography business, doing more professional work, getting paid for my photography business. But I still had never asked them to pay me. I was kind of just like, okay. So I decided though after Nutcracker, I was like, I'm not coming back to doing more photos. Like I really don't need to anymore. Like it kind of just felt like nobody ever really thanked me for them. And like the dancers would occasionally, but like for the most part, nobody really seemed to care, especially the studio owners. They never seemed to care. And it was always like I had to ask permission to be there to take the photos that they then used in their marketing. So like, I'm like, I don't understand why, I don't know. So then in the spring, I took my last class there in January because that was when the semester ended, and I was like, I'm done because we're gonna be paying off my student loans for a long time. And basically I decided that that was something I could cut out of our budget. I don't have to pay for classes anymore, which is why I'm not going back to studio dancing. I'm not. But this studio is also part of the reason. There's not really anywhere else around me. I also live kind of out in the country now. There's not a lot of places out here, and nothing offers adult stuff out here. Cincinnati Ballet is now too far away for me to drive to, and then so is this other studio that I don't want to go back to anyway. But then, so in the spring, I was taking dance lessons from one of the dancers for our wedding dance, and I love her. She's awesome. She's not there anymore. She's with another company now, and I'm so happy for her. I think it's like American Midwest Ballet is where she is now. But anyway, so she choreographed our dance, and like her and her roommate were talking, and I love her roommate too. Like she's let me take photos of her before, and it was awesome. Like, and like I said, the dancers, I love them so much. Like I don't want this to come across as, they were all so welcoming of me. Like they were so kind, and I loved. It was more, again, the studio owners who were related to some of the dancers. So I'm trying not to like, I don't want to start anything. I'm just trying to explain how this was such a horrible experience for me. Again, having paid all this money for things like my classes being canceled, for not getting parts in, getting into shows, and then, well, same with the COVID show, like that got canceled, never got money back for that, you know. Things like that I would even do for them is I would like go to the store and bring in like spare makeup and things for Nutcracker and just be like, here, just in case you need them. And like, so I felt like I was doing all this extra stuff, but I felt like, well, it's, I got a scholarship. And I'm like, but at the end of the day, my scholarship, my tuition was still very expensive. So anyway, in the spring, those dancers and some of the others had talked and they said, hey, if we were willing to each like pay you like $10, $15 or something for photos, would you like come take photos of our like, it was like the February show, so it wasn't quite spring. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. Cause at that point I was like, I don't really want to do it for free anymore. And that was just the dancers were going to. There was no contract or anything. So I did all these photos. I only ended up being able to go to 2 of the shows because they literally asked me the weekend like of the shows. And I was like, I already have plans. But I went to 2 different shows, took again, a good 1,000 photos or more and had to go through and edit them all that. That process, which people don't realize, when you take thousands and thousands of photos and then you have to cull them, which means going through them on your computer to like get rid of the ones that you don't need, go through and edit them, which I had to do in a lot of these because they use super crazy weird lighting in that studio and it's a black box theater, so it's not good lighting. That was a lot of work, hours and hours of uploading my photos. This is before I got my nice computer for my photography too. So this was uploading all of these, then going through and uploading them to Lightroom and then editing them and then exporting them and then putting them all in Google Photos for them and then sending the link. And at the second show, the studio owners had said, hey, we'd love to be, and at this point they had already been using my photos for their marketing and they'd used them in an ad that they put in a magazine that they didn't even credit me on like the year before. That still made me kind of mad too. So I started watermarking all my photos after that, which is just a small one, but still. And the dancers were always good about crediting me when they shared them, which was nice. But so the studio director was like, hey, I feel like we should be paying you for these, like, because we'd love to use them in our marketing. They're so good. And, we just really appreciate you being here and coming here. And, just send us an invoice for what you think that should be or something. And I was like, okay. But like, it wasn't something like we had agreed upon ahead of time. So I felt weird about doing it after the fact too. Also, being that I had already given them thousands and thousands of photos over the years for free, I kind of didn't know what to do. I sent a very professional looking invoice. I talked to multiple dance photographers first and asked them. They all said much more extravagant amounts. And I was like, I don't feel comfortable doing that. So I sent a very modest $200 for all of the photos. Use whatever you want. $200 is nothing. And their email back to me was, well, that's not in our budget. And honestly, we didn't ask you to be there. We allowed you to be there. Also, we feel that if we were going to use your photos for marketing, these just aren't good enough because they're not from the front of the stage. We would have to have much better quality photos to even use those in our marketing. So really, they're not worth us paying you anyway. What? Like, I don't even know. This is the same person who asked me for an invoice. I was so upset because not only did that make me feel like crap for sending them an invoice, but then I was just in tears because I felt like I must be a horrible photographer. Like, that's where my mind went. My fiance was like consoling me for like hours after that because like I felt like quitting my photography business and just like shutting it down. I was like, nope. And he was like, that's ridiculous. This is one person and one person who just doesn't respect you or value you. And many other photographers told me the exact same thing. They have all said that that was a very shitty, shady thing to do that they did. Excuse my language. That just comes out when I get mad. But it was not good. And so I didn't respond. I have never gone back since then, but that is part of the reason that I don't want to go back. That studio, all the things they did, like pushing me out of shows, basically taking away my parts, never paying me for the thousands and thousands of photos I gave them, all of that. And I'm just like, I'm done. I'm not going back. And to be fair, I think some of the students do the social media stuff, and so they may not know all of what went on. So I noticed this week there was a photo being shared that I took of them, and they did say at the bottom photographer, and they credited my name, but it's like their poster for their show that they're doing now. And they're using my photo, which I was told was not good enough to be used for their social media marketing. Yep, that's their poster that they're passing around and using flyers and stuff everywhere. And like, I'm not gonna start anything. Like, I could say, hey, you need to take this down. You don't have the rights to use this photo because you didn't want to pay the invoice that you asked me for. But I don't want to start anything. So the only thing I did is I deleted every single Google photo album that I had given them over the years of all the different shows because I know they're still using them. Now, if they've downloaded the photos already, then they have them. but not one of them paid me. Like, again, the dancers, one dancer paid me for that thing I was supposed to do. And I'm like, yeah, you know what, the dancers, I love them. And if they ever ask me for any of those photos because they didn't get them and they want to use them, then I'll be like, you know, that's fine. I can send them to you separately because they're just not in the albums. I still own the photos. They're my photos. I took them. I still have them. I also took them all down off like my photography Instagram and everything too, because I don't want them coming back with anything. Not that they should, because they kind of screwed everything up. But I just was like, you know what? I don't even want to be associated with it anymore. So that's been a really unfortunate event because I found my passion for dance photography doing all this, and now I can't even use it or do anything with it. I wasn't even getting paid to do it. There's a lot of dance photographers already in Cincinnati, and so it's not like I really have the opportunity to really do that much. But it was a lot of a bad experience there. Like I said, it's been hard to do ballet here because like this plywood I have underneath here, or actually it's particle board, is not great, and it's split in two, which is why there's that black mark of tape there. So it's a small space. I just haven't been doing ballet much because on carpet, which is the rest of this floor, there's not room. We bought a house that I will move in with my fiance after we're married because that's something we feel strongly about. And at some point when we have the money to do it, we have a third room upstairs that's not one of our offices. It's a bonus room and has really high ceilings, which is nice. We are going to rip up the carpet in there and put down some hard like laminate floor or something and make it into a ballet room plus like workout room if he wants to use it too. We just don't know when that's going to happen because unfortunately it's not in the budget right now. We don't have that. We have to pay off my student loans, and that's going to take us like 5 years. Now maybe we could still do that in that time if we can find a way to do it inexpensively or something, but unfortunately I don't know when that's going to happen. But we do have hard floor in our kitchen, so I'm like, I guess I could just put my mat down in the kitchen and do ballet in there when I need to. But so that's the plan. I don't plan on going back to the studio. There's none near me that I can even go back to really, or go to. And then none of them near me offer adult classes. And even if they did, like, again, that's something we're cutting out of the budget right now. But even when all that's over, there really isn't anywhere for me to go back to from where we live now. So, yeah. Now with this past year, I did get to go to the Art of Motion Adult Ballet Intensive in Salt Lake City. That was a phenomenal experience to see how people really care for adult ballet dancers. And I wish I could have gone to like Catherine Morgan's too, but like that, obviously I was lucky to even be able to go to one. I can't go to more, but I just love both of those programs in general and what they're doing. And Broche Ballet is another one too. Like they're all doing wonderful things for adult ballet dancers and making everyone feel included. In England, there was London ballet classes, which I went to. They teach variations to adults. It's amazing. I wish that everybody had the opportunity to do things like that and get the good experiences with teachers that are so kind. Like I had real professional ballet dancers teaching me at Salt Lake City at Ballet West, and they were all kind and so supportive and so wonderful. Why can't others be like that? I don't know. Why do we have to be really stuck up here and think we're trying to be like New York City Ballet? You can let adults be in, because you know how much money they would make if they let adults join their stuff and do more things and they were more inclusive? Like, people haven't realized that yet. Adults are the ones that have the money to spend on this stuff. Hello. So it's just been frustrating. And that's kind of where my ballet journey has been lately. I feel like I'm forgetting to mention things that happened with that studio, but at this point I'm like, you know what it is? Again, I'm not trying to start anything. That's why I didn't mention who it is or anything, but it was not a good experience for me. And it wasn't until later when I was talking to other professional dancers who were saying, I'm sorry, you had to pay to be in that show? I'm sorry, you what? This? What? And all these studios are saying, you know how much we've paid photographers who weren't even good because they don't understand ballet? And they took horrible photos and we still paid them, and you're taking those photos that were phenomenal and no one paid you? So that made me feel better that it wasn't like me being a horrible photographer, but that was a horrible experience. I feel like that's kind of how any of my conversations and emails with them went, like about whether I wanted to do more stuff in shows or the photography stuff. Like I said, I didn't ask to be paid. They offered me to send them an invoice because they really wanted to use my photos in their marketing. And then when I did, that's when they turned on me. So that's all I have to say. I wish there was better experiences here, but there just hasn't been. I did love Cincinnati Ballet when I was there. My teacher is now at Ballet West, which I didn't get to see her when I was there, which was wonderful, because Courtney is the best adult ballet teacher I've ever had in my whole life. Like, I love Courtney so much, and well, I'm so happy she's at Ballet West getting to do what she's doing because it's amazing. And she took me backstage at the theater there. It was awesome. But she was the one who made the difference for me at Sensei Ballet too. And again, that's when I lived over that way, which now I don't. So I know they've brought back, they have these amazing, beautiful new studios. I want to take a class. They're so bad. Like I told Brad, I said, one day, maybe a Saturday, can you just drive me there and let me take class while you go do something? Because it's my driving anxiety, that is too far of a drive for me. But, that we'll see, but like that would be a dream. I'm taking him to see their Nutcracker in December because the only Nutcracker he's ever seen was the one at this studio that I took him to last year, which is also a not traditional Nutcracker. It's well done, but it's not traditional. I want him to see a traditional one, although Sensei Ballet has changed a lot of theirs in the last few years to things I don't like the poodles. So I'm hoping, I would love to take him to see a true traditional Nutcracker, like very traditional, but that right now I'm like, we got tickets to Sensei Ballet in December and I'm really excited for him to go with me. And he was even like, we'll make a whole date of it. I'm like, okay. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to this next chapter and we will see where things go. I want to still keep up YouTube. I want to get back into ballet. I have started to this past week or so. And I'm like excited for how excited I've gotten about things again. And maybe it's because we took like my tiny room table and all these other things out of here. So now I have this space again. Maybe that was the key, is I just felt like I was too crowded by other things. It's still really hard to dance on just this, but it's motivated me more. And with my wedding in 39 days, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to get in shape. And I have my little tiny trampoline and then I have this and we're gonna try. But, and I will take some point shoe pictures in my wedding dress. But that's kind of my update for now. I felt like I needed to share this. I'm not trying to do it to be malicious or like complain. I do honestly think that this whole situation was a problem. And it does make me a little uncomfortable to think about them like, I don't know, retaliating. But at the same time, I didn't mention them. No one knows who they are. I've taken down all my photos from their shows and everything, so they're not posted anywhere. It just is what it is, but I just think the way they treated me was not good, and just in a lot of ways. And people pointed it out to me after the fact, so now I know. But anyway, I know I just went off on so many different, sorry, that's my brain, but all the tabs open and we don't know where the music's coming from. Anyway, that's my update, but I hope you enjoyed it. Sort of, I guess you don't want to enjoy that. But anyway, if you have questions, feel free to message me, like here on Instagram, whatever. But you know, I'd love to hear about your experiences if you've had some like really positive ballet experiences and where you've found these places, because I know there are some really, really good ones. And I love hearing about those. I get jealous when I hear about those. So leave them down there, because if other people are looking in your area, maybe they'll see that and go, ooh, I'd love to try that. But yeah, this has been mine lately. So now we're back to doing Catherine Morgan online classes and Tyler Peck online classes, and that's kind of where I'm at, which I love theirs, so that's fine with me.